Ladies and gentlemen, you are not seeing things. What a treat. We had this lady on a few weeks ago, and she's got new music out there. Everybody's talking about her, and she was in Blabbermouth. And the man that, helped her put together her comeback and those songs that everybody's talking about is the man right here. And ladies and gentlemen, we're in for a treat. I've had on a lot of different people over the past year, all the different wrestlers, the WWE's been here, all these famous rock and roll musicians, but this man is literally the definition of, when you think about Baskin Robbins and 31 flavors, this man's resume and his legacy is that definition. When you think about the likes of Jessica Simpson, her debut album, multi-platinum, this man worked on it. How about Avril Lavigne? Yeah, well, how about her and her career? Well, he helped her a bit with that. But even in hip-hop, you think about Dr. Dre. I mean, arguably, maybe the godfather of some of the greatest MCs of all time. This man worked with him. You think about 50 Cent, not too far from my neck of the woods here in New York City. And even that guy, The Game, he helped him. But most notably, he was in that studio, the last session, for arguably the man that is considered to be the greatest MC, Mr. Tupac Shakur. He was there. September 6th, 1996. He'll talk about that. How about Machiavellian? How about even in the rock world? Yes, we'll talk about Lorraine Lewis. We'll talk plenty about her. But also, how about this Black Label Society and this guy, Mr. Zach Wilde, Mr. BLS himself? He'll talk about that. How about Journey? And how about even what he's doing in maybe his greatest gift to the music world and to the future, with his own company, Good Productions, and teaching so many to learn what this man has done for over 3 decades. We'll talk about all of that. We'll also talk about the legacy that his father left, because his father, little known fact, ladies and gentlemen, was in the radio world. And we'll get into that, plus a number of different things. And since I know that our guest has not been here before, and maybe he heard a little bit from what Lorraine Lewis had to say on here a few weeks ago, I do things a little differently. Yes, I know you are definitely responsible for many MCs in the hip-hop world. You've definitely helped maybe a rock and roller or two get that right sound, get that right tone for their guitar. But I like to give an introduction because we are here in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage, and I'm known in the wrestling world. I'm known in the wrestling world as an MC, but I won't drop a bar or two on here because you'll definitely want to tune my mic down and probably throw me off the stage. But I am going to give you an introduction that you deserve, and we will honor you also later on here over the next hour. But it is now time to start this show off here in style on Sportzwire Radio, the number one global radio station where all music and wrestling matters. So with that, without further ado, here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show. A man that has countless multi-platinum albums under his resume as a producer, engineer, and mixer. He's the owner of Good Productions. His name is simply put Scott Gutierrez.
The crowd goes,
how are we doing?
Man, thank you. Thank you, first of all, Tom, for that wonderful introduction, man. I really appreciate it, man.
Absolutely,
thank you so much.
I appreciate
you so much.
I appreciate you wanting to come on because I'm always so fascinated when so many people want to come on my platform because, as I said when Lorraine was here a couple of weeks ago, the reason that you're here is that I'm usually known in the wrestling world, and I'm so fascinated when those outside of it actually want to be here, and you're one of those people. And I want to first of all say thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for everything you've done in the music industry. And I think I'm going to start right off the top here when it comes to Lorraine Lewis, because obviously she has been a topic in the news these last several months, and especially with some new music out. And I wanted to ask you, especially for those that are listening and watching here in prime time when the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the platform that you, Mr. Gutierrez, had certainly helped build Sportswire Radio. Talk to me about what it was like here being in the studio and working on these new songs that Lorraine Lewis has been releasing.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Lorraine, so much for, number one, your friendship for all these years. I've known Lorraine. I met Lorraine over 20 years ago. So through a mutual friend of ours. I was working at Ocean Way Studios. He simply just came into, hey, I got a friend of mine that's looking for an engineer to work this weekend. You want to work with her? And I'm like, sure. I didn't even ask who it was. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Who is it? Lorraine Lewis. Excuse me? Who? And he was like, Lorraine Lewis. You know her? And I'm like, Femme Fatale, right? And he was like, well, yeah, you know. I was like, yeah, no problem. I'll do it. Yeah, of course. So needless to say, I was just literally blown away. And like, I joke around with Lorraine all the time. I was like, you know, you helped get me and through a lot of guys through puberty, right? She's a sweetheart, so she laughs every time I say it. But you know,
there was a few wrestlers I had on here that when I shared my screen of her coming on, they were like, yeah. Let's just say they didn't say what they were doing. I got it.
She's an ultimate sweetheart. A true honor to work with her. Again, I was just blown away that, you know, when I met her, as you know, she's a beautiful woman from back in the 80s all the way up to now. And she was just as beautiful when I met her, and just a sweetheart, like just someone that when you think about rock stars, when you think about people in the music business, you think of pretentiousness, you think about, oh, they're all this. She was so down to earth, came in, gave me a little hug, and hey, nice to meet you. Paul says wonderful things about you. And we just hit it off. You know, we sat around for a few minutes, just talking, catching up, you know, like, hey, how you doing? What have you done? Blah, blah, blah. Who have you worked with? And, you know, and I was actually working for Dr. Dre at the time.
Oh, wow.
So when I said, oh, you know, I work with Dre, I'm one of his engineers. She's like, Dr. Dre, no shit. I'm like, oh my God. So we kind of hit it off, you know, musically. You know, I've told her some things that I've worked on in the past, you know. And then we just hit it off, and we were just doing, you know, demos for her record at the time, for her solo stuff that she was writing. And it was just her and acoustic guitar, just me and her in the studio.
Yeah, I think it was after she did a country album. I think it was like right.
It was the country demos.
Oh,
that was the demos we were working on, were her country songs. And again, knowing Lorraine and the Femme Fatale stuff, to sit there and watch this woman do a country music, I'm just like, what is this? What are we doing? Like, no way. We're doing country. Okay, cool. I mean, as you know, if you've seen in my background and my resume, I've worked in every genre of music.
I said Baskin Robbins, 31 flavors. Yeah. Such an interesting career, you know?
Right. So it was just natural for me, like, okay, cool. We're doing country. We're doing acoustic guitar, singer, singer-songwriter. So set up a mic, set up a couple of mics for the acoustic, get it back, dialed it all in. She starts jamming out, did a few takes. She comes in, listens, and she's like, wow, that sounds amazing. Let's go. Let's do some other stuff. So from that point on, you know, here and there, every few weeks, we get together and start recording. And we just really build a great friendship from that, you know. That's one thing a lot of people don't understand, is that you're going to sit in a room with someone for, you know, 8 to 12 hours a day. You might want to be able to get along with them, you know, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. So there's a lot of vulnerability between you and them, you know, because again, you're in that intimate moment and you just start sharing things and you start talking and, you know, explaining what's going on. And then you give your input, their input. Everything just, you know, kind of melts together. And again, it really comes down to, is that artist open to ideas? Are they open to, you know, your suggestions or what have you? Or do they have a vision that they're trying to get to? So either way, you always got to remember, you're a worker bee. You work for them. You're there to help them get to where it is that they're doing and what they're looking to achieve. And like I said, her and I just really hit it off. And it just humbles me every time she calls me. You know, and like I said, we've known each other for over 20 years. But every single time that we talk to each other, it's literally an hour of just catching up, you know, because we don't get to see each other that often, you know,
Sure.
And we don't get to work as much as we want to. But, you know, it's amazing to work with someone like her at that caliber, who has seen the heyday of the music business, of what most people desire the music business to be when you achieve to get into that, you know, and honestly, I grew up in the 80s. I grew up listening to Femme Fatale, Kiss, and Aerosmith, and all that 80s rock and 90s. That's what
you have some stories about that, which I'm sure we'll get into. But, you know, I'm curious about something, is that you worked on these songs, and what was it like working on these songs compared to what you've done throughout your career? Because obviously you worked on Bad Love, which is out, Living Like There's No Tomorrow, which came out a few months earlier. There's another single that's coming out. It's a reworked Femme Fatale song, Falling In and Out of Love, that's coming out right before Christmas. And I was curious. I mean, the songs sound great, by the way. Obviously, you did a heck of a job. But what was it like working on these songs with Lorraine versus maybe some of the things, even whether it's with her or anything throughout your amazing career?
the difference is that, again, she's a personal friend of mine. So, obviously you just want to do the best thing you can do, but to see her grow in these 20 years and continue to be the success that she's been, it's just, when she brought these songs to me, she says, hey, look, we have, again, we've worked for a long time. And a couple of years ago, she was telling me, hey, look, I'm going to work with Steve Brown. He approached me. He wants to work with me from Trickster and, Ace Frehley. And he's doing all this stuff. And the songs that he's sending me are fucking amazing. And I want to bring you on. And I'm like, yeah, of course. Absolutely. I'm down. And again, for me, it's not, yes, I get starstruck to certain people, certain artists and stuff. But for me, it's just, I just want to work. I just truly enjoy doing what I do. And especially with Lorraine, like I said, it's a vibe with her. You know what I mean? Like, she walks in, nobody, she can, wear whatever. She comes in and, in her awesome cowboy boots. She's got these very specific cowboy boots that she wears in the studio. Like, she likes to say, these are my lucky boots. I'm like, girl, you don't need luck. You just need to get in there and just be Lorraine, just be that rock star that you are on stage. And, just to be able to kind of harness that with her, just to, it was very special to me that she just said, we have a relationship together. We have this history together. I want to keep working with you. I want to keep doing this with you. And it was humbling to me. So naturally, to work on her, needless to say, I was nervous as hell, because I know it's going to be for an album. It's going to be for a record. And then working with these other big producers and engineers and such, you want to do a good job. You know what I mean? Your name's going on this ultimately, so naturally there's a little bit of nervousness. There's, kind of the doubts and things like that. Am I doing it right? Does it sound right? I need to live with it. As Lorraine mentioned, I do a lot of extra tweaking. I'm constantly just listening to things. Like, she'll record for about 3 or 4 hours and then go home or go to wherever she's going. And then I sit there for the next 6, 7, 8 hours, tweaking it, moving things around, putting things in time, making sure it's in pitch, tightening up all the vocals. I mean, I really go hardcore on this because I love Lorraine. I love doing what I do. And this is my happy place. So, when I sit there and can kind of get into my vibe, I lose complete track of time, and she's hitting me up at midnight. Hey, can I get that rough from you? I'm like, yeah, I'm still working on it. Hold on. She's like, what do you mean you're working on it still? And I'm like, well, you know what I do. And she's like, okay.
Does that put pressure on you though? Because when you're working
it does.
with these artists, like you're putting so much time into it, and they're obviously such established artists, whether it's Lorraine or anybody else you work with. Does that put pressure on you and such?
Of course. I mean, like I said earlier, I've been doing this for over 3 decades. I'm still nervous walking into the studio with Lorraine. I still get nervous. And it's not because of who she is. It's just because my name goes on this. I want to make sure that I do the best job that I could do at all times, no matter who it is. It could be the lowest of the low or the biggest of the big. I'm nervous regardless, because again, at the end of the day, they're not the only ones that are going to listen to this. Everyone in the world is going to listen to this. Other producers are going to listen to this, And again, my father told me years ago, whatever it is you do, however much money you're getting paid, who cares? If you take a job, do the best work you can do at all times, because at the end of the day, your name goes on this. That's your reputation. That's your career. And I've taken that to heart, so constantly, again, I hear things and I'll let a lot of stuff slide. But then at the end of the day, I'm like, wait a minute. No, I got to fix this. I got to change this. This still doesn't sound right to me. This still is not flowing. So yeah, I get under a lot of pressure, and especially when there's deadlines, because I just don't know when to quit. I tend to be I don't want to say a perfectionist, because nobody's perfect, but I tend to just really kind of go overboard and really put a lot of time and effort into stuff, make sure it all flows, make sure it's in time, make sure it's in pitch, make sure we have the right word that's sounding right. And it's,
Sure.
The dictation of that's clear, But yes, the short of the answer, yes.
No. Listen, and it's a question I ask because I've had on, so many different people like yourself in the caliber. And then obviously, I'm known in the wrestling world, and in wrestling, it's a different kind of pressure because you have to compete in a certain amount of time in a match, and there's certain things you do. But in music, it's more or less you got to get everything to sound the way or as close as it was when they're out there. We're very honored to have on here Scott Gutierrez. Obviously, Scott is the man behind Goot Productions. You can also check him out on IMDb, Instagram. You can see him on Facebook, and he is also the man that is behind the knob for the songs that you've been hearing throughout these last several months from Lorraine Lewis, who was on here on Sportzwire Radio. Of course, she is the voice of Femme Fatale, and she's out there, and she's got a brand new single that's out called Bad Love. Video is out on her YouTube channel, also on the Cleopatra Records YouTube page. It's also a new single coming out called Falling In and Out of Love. It's a reworked Femme Fatale version with Mr. Gutierrez has worked on. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice, figuratively and literally, with all music and wrestling matters. And please follow Mr. Gutierrez on Instagram so you might get your music worked on next. And, I'm curious on this for the audience, because you've been doing this for 3+ decades. And I've gotten on a lot of artists of late that have talked about this. And I'm curious your thoughts. How has the music industry changed for you in terms of the technology to help you put all this stuff out there to work that we all listen to?
The industry, wow, that's a great question. Industry has changed quite a bit. The technology, when I first got into the business back in the 90s, we were still on analog tape. Everything was still analog consoles, analog tape, analog everything. So it was a different world. It was more, technical back then. Now with computers, and I watched it, the studios just kind of go to shit, and the computers now taking over on everything.
Yeah.
It's changed quite a bit. Technology changes every single day. Every year in NAMM, you get all these new pieces of gear, and things are just getting better. Like, for instance, auto-tune. I remember when auto-tune first came out, with Cher in that one song, it was just horrible.
Oh, Believe. Do you believe it? Yeah, I remember that.
They didn't know how to work auto-tune. That's kind of the, what happens when you don't know how to use it. It was cool.
Cher was happy though about it because she got a big hit with it.
Absolutely. And, a few other people have as well. But, goes to show you that if you don't know what you're doing, sometimes you get those happy accidents. But it's made life easier, and it's also made life a lot harder in a lot of ways. It's made it easier because now I don't have to sit there and do math and figure out what is the correct delay time of 120 beats per minute. I don't have to think about that kind of stuff. I don't have to do math. All I got to do is I want a quarter note delay. Boom, click, there it is. Oh, I want to add a little bit of extra repeats. Boom, there it is. There's the regen. So that kind of stuff is a lot easier. With auto-tune, now there's the T-Pain setting. Boom, it's done. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to dial it in. The hard part about it is now it makes my job harder because now everyone expects everything to be perfect. Perfect timing, perfect pitch. You're in the right key.
I think music was never meant to be perfect.
It never was meant to be perfect, but we've gotten so used to hearing it that way that when we don't make it perfect, everyone thinks it's a mistake. You're like, oh, they don't know what they're doing. They're not playing.
My mother said my dad was a drum teacher, so this stuff is always kind of ingrained in my head that there's supposed to be some kind of flaw in music, whether it's on a record or even when you're watching an artist perform live,
Yeah. And it's so funny because I've gotten used to hearing things such on the grid of the time grid that when I listen to old soul songs, oh, he fucked up there. Oh no, he's out of there. Oh no, that was out of pitch. But I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute. That's what music is about. That's the feel. That's the soul. When I do vocals with people, I purposely leave in the little squeaks and squeals. When guitar players are playing and they slide and
yes,
I leave that stuff in because that shows that's a real human being playing. That's a real feel. That's a real emotion that we're hearing, Sia's song Chandelier is a great example. When she's writing that B section going into that chorus, she literally squeals trying to hit that note. And they leave that in there. And every time I hear it, I get cold chills. That's the stuff right there that makes music. That's what gives it the heart and soul. That's why people connect, because now, oh, wait a minute. They aren't perfect at all. They are flawed,
Yeah.
And the worst part about it is that because of us in the studio, we're making things so perfect, and we get so used to hearing that on the radio time and time again, that when you go see an artist live, how many times, Tom, have you went and seen an artist live like, oh my God, I didn't know they were so bad. They couldn't really play. They can't really sing. No, they can, but we sit there, spend all those days and hours and months and years on end fixing that for them. To make them sound
I just saw King's X play now, which would be the complete opposite of that. But I know exactly some bands that you're referring to. I could completely picture what you're talking about there, because in the studio you're able to hide those flaws, or you use some of those things, and then when you see the artist perform live, you're like, that's not what I expected. So I get that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I get
And again, like earlier to your question was, yes, it makes my job much harder because they expect that perfection. You wouldn't believe how many times I get a question, why'd you leave that in there for? Because it felt good. It sounded good. It was your true feeling at the time. Why do we want to fix it?
Sure.
And I just leave those things like that, in there for those reasons, because at the end of the day, like I said, it's all about a vibe. Music, we have to connect and the artists, the producers, the engineers have to connect with that listener, and those
Absolutely.
are some of the little
It's the same thing
tiny-
in wrestling. Listen, in wrestling, what we have in wrestling is we have to connect off the crowd. If the crowd doesn't like what we do, I mean, basically, we're given the hook. In music, I think
right,
it's you got to have the vibe. You got to have a vibe to it. Whether whatever genre it is, if you don't have that, then it's obviously either the artist didn't do their job, or you need to
right.
find something else. I was curious because again, you've had such an immense catalog. I mean, I could spend hours talking about it, but when you work with the likes of Jessica Simpson, Avril Lavigne, you've obviously worked with then Black Label Society. You were on the Kiss Unplugged before, right when the
Oh,
mask came back on. You've done
yeah.
so many things. Obviously, Tupac, The Game, Dr. Dre, Machiavelli. I mean, you work with all these aftermath artists. Lorraine, I mentioned. As somebody like yourself, as an engineer in the studio, is there a different responsibility working with different genres of music? I would really be fascinated
Yeah.
with that, because I had actually a wrestler come on my show who I want to give a shout out to, Il Drago, the Samoan Dragon, the Final Chief. We were talking about you coming on the show, and he was like, he was really fascinated about that, and he had kind of made me think I should ask you that. So I was just curious, just on, is there a different vibe with all these different genres that you've worked with in your career?
Of course, absolutely. There's number one, it's a different genre of music. So number one, you need to be familiar with that genre. How does it sound? What's predominant? What's the workflow, et cetera, et cetera. But also the vibe of the people that are involved. Like country artists, they're country. I'm from Indiana, so I can totally relate to country
My
music.
hall monitor of Sportzwire Radio is from Indiana, Mr. Justin Parsley. So we're very familiar with Indiana
Yeah.
on my platform.
So when you deal with country people, that, okay, there's gonna probably be some drinking, there's probably some, some funny tales, this and that and the other, some shenanigans. When you work with rock stars, there's probably gonna be some more drinking, some other little extracurricular stuff, gonna be some crazier stories. But and then too, to record those specific genres, it's very different. You're going to record a guitar a little differently than you would record an acoustic guitar or a country guitar or a metal guitar or a rock guitar. There's different distortions. There's different effects that you're going to use. There's a very different workflow to every single genre that you do work with. Hip hop, it's basically a microphone, that you're recording. It's rare that you're going to have a live band doing hip hop music. It's mostly a drum machine and then an
Maybe
MC.
the Roots would be an example of a live
Yeah,
band, except with
exactly.
certain exceptions.
Exactly. I mean, and then there's even been live bands like I've done industrial music where we did a live band, but there's all these loops and stuff that we have to
Sure.
record to. So you're basically doing overdubs. You're not really recording the band live together. You're doing
Yeah.
each individual artist against those loops, or against the musician against those loops. So there's a lot of different kind of aspects that you got to take in consideration. I've done a lot of Disney scores for Disney. So I'm working
Yeah,
with
you've done film too. I mean, that's
yeah,
got to be
ton of film
interesting
stuff.
in
Yeah.
itself. I mean, film. I remember as a kid, one of the things my dad, when he was alive, always said, as a musician, and this probably would be the same for you. One of the things you always want to find a way is to get on a movie or a soundtrack, because of just the magnitude of it, and other reasons, which was pay was actually one of the
Yeah.
things you brought up. But I'll leave that at that. I don't like to get in the middle of that stuff. But I think it would be really interesting to talk about what's that like being on film production and scores and music. I think that's
It
a really
sucks.
relevant thing. Well,
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, no.
probably does. I don't know.
Okay, so let me rephrase that. It's challenging. It's very challenging.
Okay.
Number one, you're dealing with the 30 to 120 of the top musicians in the world at one time. with,
Okay.
you got 5 violins or 10 violinists. You've got, your cellos, you've got your basses, you've got your horns. You've got all of the top musicians who are being paid scale to be there. $300 an hour times that by 100 people. That's a lot of money sitting in that room waiting for you to fuck up. So hopefully you don't. So, and
Yeah.
then there are
Okay.
times when you're dealing with that many personnel sitting in a room and everyone's working, you do have technical problems. So here you are sweating bullets, running around trying to figure out what cable just dropped out to change, because everyone's looking at you like, let's go. We got
Oh
to
my God.
move. Everyone's getting paid quite a bit of money. So it's very, very, very stressful to deal with that part of it. Then you have the 6 hours of setting up before a
Yeah, because
20-minute
I
session to
thinking about that.
record.
Yeah.
So you have 20 minutes of music to record, but you're spending literally a half a day setting up for that session. And we're talking stands, music stands, you're talking lights on
I
every
think I'd
stand,
rather
you're
work with
talking
Wrangler
extension
with you
cords,
said. Yeah. I
the
think I'd rather.
chairs, and everyone wants it a different setup or a different way to record depending upon the instrumentation. So it's stressful. And then you've
Oh,
got a lot of pretentious composers that walk in the door and say,
yeah. I could see that.
it's got to be this way. And if you look wrong that day, or if you don't smell right that day, then
Oh
they're
God.
wondering, who's this guy next to me?
Oh.
So it could be a little stressful, but at the end of the day, the most rewarding part of it is to actually hear them play together like that and to hear that magic happen in the air. That is the coolest thing in the world. I remember the first session that I got to sit on doing an orchestra was just like, wow. I mean, I was in band growing up, but to see 50, 100 like high class musicians who've never seen the music that they're about to play until they walk into the door and then nail it on the first take, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
there's a musicianship there with certain orchestras, and that I think I didn't get a greater appreciation on until years later. And I took strings in high school. I took music in college, so that was my minor. So I get that. So I totally understand, and I understand the frustrations. And now I'm like, I should have never asked you that question, but I I do have to ask you because it's always been on my mind about you, and I'm gonna have to bring it up. September 6th,
Ah,
1996, and obviously, that is a day I'm sure forever ingrained in your time because
yeah.
that was the day that you were in the studio where some guy that's the greatest MC of all time named Tupac Shakur came in and he recorded some songs with you, and I know it's a famous story out there, and that was the day before he had got shot on September 7th,
Yeah.
1996, and that was for the Mike Tyson Bruce Seldon fight. And I will share my own memory of that. And I have to ask it because I know so many people on my platform who are Tupac fans and weren't even alive when he was an artist, but you were there. You were one of the last people to have ever seen him. So I have to ask you, what were your memories of September 6th, 1996 in the studio with the one and only Tupac Shakur?
Man, how much time you got?
For you, I'll give you all day.
All right. So, yeah, that's something I truly am not ever going to forget. I mean, that's something I want to take to the grave with me. It was a true honor to work with him. Uh, just to kind of precursor to that, I worked on the Machiavelli album prior
Yeah,
to that.
I remember him, sure.
So we worked a whole 2 months on the Machiavelli album before any of that happened. So that summer before we were working on Machiavelli, it was at the end of Death Row having their residency at a studio called Can-Am in Van Nuys. So
Okay.
they basically took over that studio. They had both rooms running for about 5 years long, and they were losing their lease. The owner wanted the studio back, go back into commercial sell instead of having that one client there. So they were losing the lease. So they started going around town finding new studios, and I happened to be working at a studio called Track Record, which is actually literally less than a block from where I'm at right now. I can literally walk out of the front door of my house. I'm home and look down the street and see Track Record.
Oh wow, okay. That's
So
pretty
it's a
cool.
true full circle moment for me here, being at where I'm at now. So we got a call saying that Tupac wanted to come in and do the session. We're like, all right, cool. He's going to do a song for Mike Tyson. So just make sure you're on point. And I the moment that they said that line, it was like, oh shit, here we go. So during Machiavelli, because they're losing their lease and they're coming to our studio at Track Record now, and then they literally booked out both rooms for like 6 months right off the bat. So all the artists can come and just vibe out. We had Danny Boy there first, and then everyone started kind of coming in. But I remember while we're working on Machiavelli, all the producers and engineers that were coming from Can-Am and working with us, and I was just an assistant at the time, they were like, look, if Pac ever comes in, be on point. Do not fuck up. And I'm like, okay, cool. That all right. They're like, as good as you do, they're going to blast on you. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, dude, you're going to get your ass kicked. Like, wait, what? Wait, what did you just say? He's like, dude, they fight. The whole crew, they come in, they'll jump you. If you fuck up, they'll jump you. So this whole time working on Machiavelli, I'm sitting there thinking, man, I might get in a fight tonight. I don't know. I don't know what's about to happen. But again, like you asked, pressure and stress. Oh, yeah. There was a lot of pressure and stress just thinking that in the back of your head. I can't fuck up. I can't fuck up. I got to be on point. So here we are working on Machiavelli and all that. And he never showed up during Machiavelli. All the lyrics were already recorded. We just did overdubs for guitars, the bass, drums, things like that, percussion stuff for about 6 weeks before we finally mixed the album. So that gets all put in the can. The whole time he never showed up. So I'm like, cool, dodged a bullet. No problem. No pun intended. So then we get the call about him doing a song for Tyson fight. So show up to the studio. We're there for a couple of days, you know, busting out beats and stuff, you know, getting things ready. And then Friday night comes along and they say, all right, Pac's going to be here about 3:00. Make sure you're on point. Make sure the mic is set up. Make sure you test everything out so he can walk in, you hit play and record, and he gets in, gets out. He's on a deadline. He's coming off set. So he's got other things he's got to do. And then he's going to go to Vegas tonight. All right, cool. So sure enough, he pulls it up, you know, all right, he's on his way. He's 10 minutes away. So I run out there. I open the front door to the building. Limo pulls up. Him and, you know, his crew come out. Excuse me. He comes out first and just walks out, just wearing a t-shirt or whatever, walks right by me. And I just looks at me and I said, how you doing? He's like, hey, and just walks right past me. No big deal. Everyone walks in. He goes straight into the room. He's looking around the studio. First time he's been in there. He's like, oh, this is a cool little spot. All right. He's like, let me hear it. Walk up, hit the tape machine. All right, cool. Give me a pad and paper. The beat's playing. Give me a pad and paper. So he starts writing. Give me some blunts. So everyone's running around, rolling blunts for him. Give me some Hennessy. Everyone's struggling around, calling the runner in. All right, run down to the liquor store, blah, 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 blah. And then he listened to the song a few times. Song's about 5 minutes long, the instrumental. And he just listens to it. And he's writing, so he already knows what he's going to say. You know how Pac is. He just listens to the beat. He's got to feel the beat. He's just writing, going along, writing. And then he's like, all right, cool, let's go. So we all jump up, you know, run over to the console, hit stop. I run in with him, set up the mic for him and stuff. I come in, hit record. He runs through it the first time, runs all the way down and just killing it. Just boom, just coming off like he's been practicing this song forever. Then he comes back in. All right, give me another track. All right, hit another track, record down again. All right, go back. Let's fix this. Let's fix that. Dun-dun-dun. 3 or 4 times down, he was done. All the ad-libs, everything. Literally from the time he walked in until the time we finished, 30 minutes maybe. 35 minutes. Just
wow.
The whole song. And if you've heard the song, you can find the song online. If you heard the song, you hear all the layers of what's going on. So he's got all this in his head just going and going and going. And I truly can't enjoy it because I a lot of times I like to vibe with people, you know, just there was gotta be on point. So I'm just in there hitting record, fixing, you know, punching in and out, fixing little things here and there. So I really can't really enjoy what he's doing. All I know is that's fucking Tupac in there, you know? Wow.
Yeah,
I'm actually recording Tupac right now.
The greatest MC of all time. I mean, that's him, you know?
And, you know, and like I said, I was really looking forward to meeting him during Machiavelli, but that didn't happen. So this is like the one time I'm like, oh shit. And again, I can't even enjoy it because I'm in the back of my head. You're going to get blasted on. Don't fuck up. So I'm just sitting there sweating bullets, going through the whole thing. And then he's finished. He's done. He comes in, takes his headphones off, comes in. All right, cool. Put up the next one. We're like, what? He's like, well, where's the next track? How much time we got? We're like, well, dude, we got all night. All right, well, we got all night. Okay, cool. Let's put up another track. Get someone in here. Let's do a beat. Okay. So we just sit back and call in some people. They come in and start busting out a couple more beats for him. And meantime, he's just kind of hanging out with his crew. We're all sitting there smoking, drinking. He's like, you guys hungry? You hungry? All right, call them. You get the limo guy in here. Sends the limo out to go get McDonald's for everyone. Everyone's got a Big Mac meal now. You know what I mean? I'm just like tripping. I'm like, Tupac Shakur eating McDonald's Big Mac meal? No way. So I'm just sitting there talking to him, you know, and I'm like, hey, man, I just want to say my name is Scott, blah, blah, blah. Worked on the Machiavelli. Oh, cool. I said, so what's up with Machiavelli? It's going to come out soon. We're just holding on to it. It'll be out. It's coming out. We're just waiting on the right time. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Next, you know, this beat's ready. He's like, all right, well, let me jump on this beat. Runs in there, knocks out a whole nother song. I think it was Hell for a Hustler, I think.
Yes.
And then, yeah, he comes back in. We sit down. We start chopping up again, eating some more food, drinking more, smoking more. Of course, I'm not smoking because I got to be on point. So I can't enjoy nothing. I'm just in there eating and just like, okay, this is a cool vibe today. All right, it's cool. It's chill. So we knock out 3 songs. I can't even remember what the last one was. So we knock it out. And he tells me, he's like, all right, cool, dude. So I'm going to take off. You know, I'm done. I'm going to take off. I'm going to head out to Vegas. So I want you to mix these down. He's like, just concentrate on the song for Tyson. Mix it down. And then we're going to send someone in to come and pick it up. And they're going to take it out to Vegas for us. I'm like, all right, cool. So he heads out. And it's probably 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, somewhere around there. And I'm there till about midnight, just mixing the track, waiting for the courier to come in. They call me up around midnight. All right, courier's on his way. All right, cool. Song is ready. Put on the DAT, hand it off to the courier, and they go off to Vegas. Next day is the Tyson fight. So I'm excited. He's like, all right. And he tells me, he's like, well, he's going to play the song when he's walking down to the ring. I'm like, oh shit. All right, cool. It's gonna be on TV. All right, great. So I'm at home watching the fight, getting wasted, having to eat, and watching it. And sure enough, they play the song, and I'm like, holy shit, it's on TV. Fuck yeah, you know. So I'm just tripping because it's one of the first things I get. It's literally within my first year of my career.
Yeah.
One of the first things.
And Mike Tyson, you know, for those that you know, to backtrack, had just come back a year earlier in the ring, and he was the heavyweight champion. So to have that, I mean, Tyson was back. In fact, I vaguely remember that as a little kid because I believe the fight was actually shown. It was either on Fox or it was on pay-per-view. It was one of them, but I remember it coming out. It was like a big deal because Bruce Seldon had been a heavyweight champion recently as well. So this was a big thing here coming up.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, like I said, just for me, I was just wanting to hear the song.
And I think Out was the song, right? Was it? I think it was All Out was the song you worked on.
Something like that. Yeah,
it was All Out.
Like that. Yeah. But yeah, it was just ridiculous. Just like I said, for me, it was like one of those achievement moments. Like, wow, something that I worked on is actually being played on the radio or being played on TV. You know, something I can brag about now. Something, you know, I'm like, you know, so I was all excited. And the last thing that Pac told me before he walked out, he's like, hey, man, I just want to say thank you. Shook my hands like, thank you. I appreciate everything, dude. I'll see you on Sunday. I'll be back on Sunday. It's like, so be prepared. We're going to get back in here on Sunday, do some more work. I was like, cool. Hell yeah, let's go. So, you know, like I said, I'm just sitting there excited. I'm, you know, half faded out and just like, man, this is awesome. I get to work with him tomorrow morning. This is going to be great, man. I can't believe this. So, and honestly, I really didn't know any Tupac songs before all this, except for the Machiavelli stuff we worked on. And then which made me go back and listen to All Eyes on Me and some of his other stuff. I mean, I knew like the Toss It Up had just came out. So I knew that was out. So I knew the recent stuff that he just did, you know, because I just worked on everything. And then it made me go back and listen to the other ones like, oh, okay, now I recognize this now. Okay, cool. And honestly, I wasn't a big hip hop fan at the time, you know, and I kind of still ain't a hip hop fan. I respected everyone. I mean, don't get me wrong. I made an amazing career doing it, but it just wasn't my forte. I'm a rock guy, you know, as you can't tell.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you know, I think it's ironic that you actually worked before that with Kiss. You did, you know, Kiss Unplugged. So it wasn't like you were just this hip hop guy. It's why you have such a really versatile, you know, catalog that you've worked on. You know, I mentioned Jessica Simpson, Avril Lavigne, but then you've also done Kiss. You've also done, you know, Black Label Society. So you've had a really interesting life here in the music world.
Let me tell you a fun story about Kiss. So again, where I grew up, I'm the youngest of 8 kids in my family. All right. So my oldest brother, the oldest one, is 15 years older than me. So as a kid, my mother used to take me to the grocery store with her every Saturday when she went grocery shopping. So what I did was, I'm not walking around with mom all day. I would go right to the bin, to the aisle with all the bins of records and tapes. And I would sit there and just go through them, and really couldn't read nothing at the time. But I'm going through and looking at stuff. And then all of a sudden I find one that just kind of catches my eye. So I pick it up and I'm like, all right, I'm looking at it. And then I run over and find my mom, and my oldest brother happened to work at that grocery store that we were at. And so he's with my mom talking to her, and I run up to Mom, can you buy this for me? And in Spanish, she tells me, what are you, fucking crazy? She's like, in Spanish. Now, again, my Spanish is really, really, really bad, but I can understand what mom's telling me. And of course, the curse words. So I'm looking at, like, my brother starts laughing because he's looking at this like, what do you know about that? You know? So I was like, all right, whatever. So I go and I put the record back. That night, we're sitting at home, and it was me, mom, and dad, and one of my brothers and sisters were there. And we're watching Godzilla. And I remember this very, very vividly. I remember all of this. This is bizarre. We're watching Godzilla on TV. And my brother walks in from work. And I turn around. We all in the living room, walks in. We turn around. Hey, what's up, Ruben? He's like, hey. He's like, oh, cool, you're here. And he hands me a paper bag from the store he works at. And I look at him. Mom and dad kind of look at each other like, what the hell? And I open it up and I pull it out. And it was the record that I was looking at. And that record was Kiss Alive 2. So if you know the album,
yeah,
it's a live album. So it's got Gene Simmons, his makeup's all smeared,
yep,
blood running down his face. Paul Stanley looks perfect as usual. You know, Ace Frehley looks good. And Peter Criss is all sweaty as well. And of course, when my mom saw that album cover, she's like, oh, hell no. And had like,
Indiana church family. Yeah. Not going anywhere.
Chuckles. Yeah. My brother chuckles, and he's, again, the oldest of all. He was the musical influence to all of my brothers and sisters, which I didn't find out until his funeral. But, you know, he gave me this album. And so immediately my dad, again, we'll get to him, but he was a radio disc jockey. So he had a whole little
bring that up yet.
Yeah, he had a whole little setup in the house. So I was like, Dad, can I play this, please? Can I play this? He's like, yeah, sure. So he goes back. We go back behind his bar. He shows me how to set up the record players, turn it on and everything, pulls out the headphones, hands it to me, tells me how to clean the record. And he's like giving me a whole tutorial how to do this. Because, again, I'm probably 3, maybe 5, somewhere in there. I was young. I was tiny. And so he's showing me all this stuff. And immediately I put on the album. Very first song is Detroit Rock City. And the crowd comes up. If you want the best, you got the best. Hardest band in the world. Kiss. And the song just kicks off. Imagine at 3, 5 years old, hearing this for the very first time. Crowd screaming and yelling. Rock song coming on. All of a sudden, ba-da-da-da-da, kaboom. You hear explosions happen. And when you open up the album cover, you actually see the stage of that concert, which was recorded at the Forum. And it's the $1 million stage is what they called it. So there's fireballs shooting up on the sides of the stage. So when you hear that kaboom, those are the fireballs. So I'm flipping out, listening to this like, oh my God, what is this that I'm hearing? And that whole night, I listened to that whole album. And of course, in the album, there's like these, the Kiss Army stickers and all this.
Yep.
I'm putting tattoos on me and stuff all night. Listen to this music, never hearing Kiss before, not knowing who this band is, but just blown away by what I'm listening to and what I'm looking at on the pictures and the posters and the artwork of the album. And I was hooked. I was completely hooked. And at that point, it's funny, I told the story of my brother's funeral. My sister's like, oh yeah, you played that shit for a month straight, every day, all day long. She was like, we were sick of that album. And that's where my whole musical thing kind of just took off. It's like, wow, I want that. I don't know what that is. I don't know what I'm hearing. I don't know what's going on. All I hear is a million people screaming and yelling, a band rocking out, all these explosions. And
then you work with them years later, though. I mean, that's got to be a surreal moment, right? You work with the band that discovered your love of music. I mean, that's just got to be a surreal moment, you know?
So then fast forward all through my junior high and high school years and elementary. all my friends were Kiss fans. So we used to literally sit in our garage and lip sync, think we're playing Kiss songs for years doing this. And then moving to LA, within the first 3 months of being in LA, working at Track Record, get the call that Kiss is coming in. And I'm like, wait, what? You got to be kidding me. So I work on a session the night before, a hip hop session, of course. And it literally went from like 6 p.m. until 8 a.m. the next morning. That's how long that session went. So here we are. And like Kiss is waiting outside the door. The whole road crew to come in, set up, because we're in the same room, the studio that they were going to come into. So everyone's knocking on like, dude, you got to get these guys out of here. I'm like, I can't tell these guys to leave. I mean, who am I? I'm the engineer. I'm the assistant here. I don't know what's going on. So finally, the owner comes in. All right, session's over. You guys get the fuck out. We got another, session coming in. So next, session ends. Everyone's running out. Everyone's moving shit around. We're out there cleaning the studio up, shining it all up. The road crew's bringing road gear in. They're setting up all this Pro Tools rig and everything. And then this dude comes in, sits down on the console, pulls out a paper and just sitting there with his feet up on the console. And I'm looking around like, oh, I don't see anyone. I don't see Kiss. I just see, a bunch of crew people. And then all of a sudden, hey, Paul, how do you want this set up? And I turn around and look, and the guy at the console was Paul Stanley.
Whoa!
And I'm just like, oh my God. But of course, me being me, I'm thinking Paul Stanley's going to come in with this badass outfit, his hair done, the makeup on with the boots, and just.
Well, at that time, the makeup had been off for years. I think that's
exactly.
Yeah.
See, in my mindset, I'm thinking him being Paul, and here he is, this dude in ripped up jeans with some cowboy boots and a t-shirt, sitting at the console with sunglasses, reading the paper. And I'm just like, that's Paul Stanley? No way, it can't be. So then, a few days later, I run into Gene Simmons. Now, if anyone's ever seen Gene Simmons, he's his face when you first what's up?
I've listened to him in interviews. Yeah.
He's a little scary looking. So, excuse me. When I met him, I was in the office, and the parking lot was like the office right outside the parking lot. So I remember coming out of the office door, and he was coming out of his Range Rover at the time. He stepped, and we're literally like 3 feet apart, and he kind of just looks up with that face, and I'm like, oh shit. And step back, and like, oh, this is really Gene Simmons. Like, oh wow, oh my God. So again, a few weeks of just, I was a runner at the time in a system.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I'm just hanging out, like doing everything for him, and then the assistant in the room at the time calls me up and says, hey man, I need you to sit in here for me. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, just come in and sit down. Just keep Jimbo Barton. Jimbo, who was mixing.
Jimbo Barton, I know he worked on Queensryche. He worked on worked on Megadeth. Yeah, I know Jimbo Barton is.
Yeah, so Jimbo was mixing that album for him, and he's like, man, I just need you to come in and hang out. Jimbo knows you. You're cool, man. Just go in and hang out. I'm like, all right, cool. So I go in. I said, hey, Jimbo. He's like, hey, come on in, dude. So I'm just sitting there behind him and just tripping out because we've got the picture. We were mixing to film. Or to the show, and I'm just sitting there just tripping out watching this, and he's mixing and doing his thing, and then at that point he was like, dude, whenever you want to come in, just come in and hang out. Even if the guys are around, just come in and hang out. I'm like, oh shit, really? And he's like, yeah, dude, it's cool. You're cool with them, great. So at that point, I took every advantage of that. So any chance I get, I was like, hey, can I come in? Yeah, come on in, dude. And I was hanging out with Paul and Gene, and I'm like, there's no way. I'm sitting here. I'm like, this is crazy, and this is
total opposite of what you told us with Tupac. Complete opposite.
Right. So I'm just like tripping out, like, my God, this is Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. Bruce Kulick was there.
Yes.
We did all of these overdubs. They did a bunch of string overdubs and things like that.
Eric Singer, right, was on drums, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then that's when they did the reunion with
Ace
and Peter that night as well. They never showed up to the studio, but to sit there and chat it up with Paul and Gene and then hanging out with Bruce in the lounge and stuff is it was just so surreal moment. I'm sitting there just remembering, I've been in LA for about 3 months at this point, and I'm just this is what it's going to be like. And I'm just thinking in the back of my head, I made it. I was like,
Yeah,
oh my God.
I mean, listen, I think you did make it, and that's why we're very honored to have on Mr. Scott Gutierrez here. And of course, he is the owner of Gut Productions. He is on Instagram, he is on IMDb. Please go out there and support him. He's also got a Facebook page, and if you are a prospective musician or a client, certainly please give him a shout. I will certainly connect you to my buddy, Mr. Tone DeBoss, who has a song called Showtime, which was produced and played by the Kansas City Chiefs and the Golden State Warriors. So I'll definitely connect with him, and we're here for a little while. I know I got a few more questions I got to ask you, but I have to give you. I want to give you something because I feel like, especially after the time you've given us, you deserve this. So I'm going to share my screen because for those that are listening and watching here in Sportzwire, you are in the Sportzwire Hall of Fame now. Now, you should be in the Music Hall of Fame. You should definitely be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for some of the work you've done. But for now, you'll have to take this as a sign of appreciation because you are in my Sportzwire Radio Hall of Fame. And I'll give you the physical copy when we're off the air. And I just want to thank you for just everything you've done for the music industry. It's surreal to me when you mention names like James Jimbo Barton. I'm a fan of Queensryche, and he worked on a lot of those Queensryche albums, and he did some stuff for Motley Crue. You mentioned Kiss, obviously, Rush, a lot of those bands he did work for. You've obviously talked about Tupac, and I remember that Tyson Seldon fight. I remember that Monday going to school, and people talked about Tupac, and Tupac being shot, and he didn't die right away, if I recall correctly, but he was shot, and that was a big deal, and you've talked about that. I also remember you working for The Game. My friend, one of my best friends at the time, who went to high school with, he loved The Game, and you worked on The Game and 50 Cent, and that was when we used to go bowling in Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and we used to play the 50 Cent album, The Massacre, and that was definitely a thing, and we'll give you that physical copy when we're off the air. But I have to ask you about your dad. Yeah, anytime. I have to ask you about your dad because your dad was in the radio world, and I got to story. Talk to me about your dad and his influence on you.
Wow, my dad. I mean, geez, I got years to talk about him. My dad, I'll tell you what, he first generation, family here, and migrant family here, and back home in Indiana. Born and raised in McAllen, Texas. Ended up there. He is. Hey, Pablo, ¿cómo estás, güey?
God bless.
The best of the best. Yes, right. And I look just like him. That's why everyone's telling me. So
yeah, you do a little bit. You actually
get the hair going. So you know. But anyway, so we, again, I was raised in a tiny little farm town in Indiana, and my father, the story is that my Uncle Fred was the one who actually got approached by the radio station, and he had a radio show. It was at the time it was only 30 minutes, and it was all in Spanish. And my Uncle Fred would always travel back and forth to Texas. So he asked my dad whenever he's out of town, he's like, hey, would you mind, taking over the show while I'm gone? And my dad was just a natural MC. My dad just had the gift of gab, and he had a great, huge personality, and a lot of people just loved him. So my dad naturally just went in there and just kind of took the show over and ended up taking it over to where they end up extending it to an hour after a while. But it was all completely in Spanish. So he had a whole monologue that he would do and opening up the show. A song from Flaco Jimenez, a polka song that he would always use every show. But he became a local celebrity, which was really bizarre. And truly, I didn't realize my dad was a celebrity until maybe like 10 years ago. Thinking about, because, and I now understand what celebrity kids talk about. It's like, I didn't know my dad was Ozzy Osbourne. I didn't know my dad was famous. I didn't know this. He was just dad to me. And that's how my dad was. He was just dad to us. Yes, I would hear him on the radio, but I'm thinking, oh, it's just a job he's got. Whatever, no big deal. But anywhere that we went, my dad was a celebrity. The red carpet would roll out for him. He would get free drinks. He would get, he had friends. And then because of his connections with the radio station, he had to get new music. So he would call the distributors in San Antonio, Texas. I forget who it was, but they would send him the promos for all the new releases of Tejano music coming out of Texas. So really cool. My dad has this massive record collection for over 16 years that he was on the radio. It's literally about a whole wall of our garage.
I've seen that in people's home. Yeah, I can picture that, actually. I can definitely picture that.
But all of these are promos of just records that had come out over all those years. And then, so because he had that connection, he would then go around to the migrant camps and his friends every weekend and sell those records. So it became a record shop for him, like a mobile record shop. So he would come in and he would tell his friends like, hey man, I love that song from so-and-so. Can you get me the album? Yeah, sure. He would take the order down. They would pay him. He'd call the distributor. A week later, he'd get the record, take it back the following week and sell it. Another friend would come in. Hey, can you do blah, 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 blah. So for 15, 20 years, my dad had a whole nother side hustle of Parker Records, you know, which is now going to be my record label. When I open it up, is going to be Parker Records in honor of my father.
Wow. Well, that's really cool. I mean, so now which I want to transition into it in the remaining minutes, is you have your own company, Good Productions, and now, as you talked about, which is on your IMDb page, which I'm going to put right back up here, you want to have your own record label. So kind of talk to me about the inspiration of having Good Productions and also your record label, which you're going to be working on. Talk to me about the inspiration with that.
So Goot Productions is just, my nickname in high school was Goot, you know, so my brother was Taco, my other brother was Burrito. They couldn't give me the same name, so they just said Gutierrez, Goot. That's your name. So that was my nickname in high school. So then I just took that on when I came into, to LA. It's like, all right, Goot is my nickname. How are people going to know it's me from back home? All right, Scott Gutierrez. All right, so let me just call it Goot Productions. So everything that I do, I just put under Goot Productions. And what's funny is there's about 75 different Scott Gutierrez's here in Los Angeles, which is bizarre. It's so bizarre to me. I actually looked it up one time and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to differentiate myself? So Goot Productions. So that way all my people from back home knows that it's truly me. So that was the inspiration to that. And again, everything I do, I always just throw that in there, Goot Productions. So that way people know that that's me. Just kind of like my little watermark. As for the record label, I mean, it's more of going to be an extension of Goot Productions, not really going to be much of a label. I'm looking more to develop artists. My ultimate dream gig would be to be an independent A&R guy, to where I literally travel the world, find new artists, develop, produce, mix, and go on to the next. And just for a record label, for them, for whatever it is. But that's ultimately kind of where I
want. Yeah. I mean, you think about the knowledge that you have and the genres that you've worked for. I think you would be a natural for it because, you've had success with hip hop artists. You've had success with pop artists. You've certainly had success with rock artists. So I think you have a really unique perspective, similar to an A&R person. I think about, obviously, when you were talking about the 90s and you think about all these big record labels, Clive Davis comes to mind. And, you think about Atlantic Records, you think about Elektra Records, obviously Interscope. And, you think about, Liar Cone. Everybody, as an A&R head, you were listening to all types of genres and you have that unique ear for it. And I wanted to ask you this question because I always ask this to important people like yourself, and that what advice would you give to anybody that's up and coming, whether it's a musician, whether it's entertainer? Obviously, people know my platform is home for wrestling of all sorts. So what advice would you give to anybody that's up and coming?
Find a second career.
It's funny you said that because I think Phil Lewis of LA Guns said kind of the same thing, more or less. I've heard that.
I mean, you got to look at it this way, folks. For anyone, number one, believe in yourself. Number one, believe in yourself.
Mark Farner said that. That was good. That's a good one.
Do what it is that you like to do. Don't worry about trying to write songs for someone else. Write songs for yourself. Do it for you. Don't do it because you want to pick a girl or a guy or you're trying to chase it, whatever. Chase your dream. Put your all into whatever it is you do. All right. Be all in. Don't half-ass nothing. Number one. Number two, you're going to have to just think of how they say, what is it, 14,000 hours that you got to put into that? Quadruple that. You're going to have to put in countless hours, day in, day out. Another thing is, don't be afraid to work for free when you first start out. You got to start somewhere. No one's going to give you everyone wants experience, but no one wants to give you that helping hand to get that experience. So you're going to have to go out and find your own work. You're going to have to find your own artist to work with. You're going to maybe produce your own music even. Do some of your own stuff. Practice makes perfect. You can go on the internet now and get the stems and masters of massive hits out in the day and just practice mixing, practice editing, practice whatever.
That's a good point.
Practice makes perfect.
Repetition. They always. My uncles always yell at me. Repetition. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that like I said earlier, I walk into sessions, I'm nervous, and I've been doing this for over 30 years.
Well, they say it's a good thing though to be nervous. They say it's actually good psychologically to be. It means that you're actually like you're ready the way you're ready. Yeah, exactly.
I care what's going to come out. I want to do a good job. I'm not coming in who I am. And again, people always tell me, well, you've done Tupac, you've done this, you've done that. And I said, yeah, but I'm not doing that right now. It's like that was a job that I had then.
But people look at that, your resume. I mean, Tupac, Dr. Dre, The Game, 50 Cent. I mean, Black Label Society. I mean, Kiss. I mean, like Jessica Simpson, Avril Lavigne. I mean, your resume, I could see why people would say that. Listen, I mean, I don't want to put myself in any category, but I get a lot of these, like, backyard wrestlers on here, and the first thing they'll say is, well, you've had, like, X, Y, and Z WWE name on there, but I kind of say what you say. Well, I mean, I'm not talking to them now. Right. I'm not in WWE.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still working for someone.
Yeah.
I just want to do a good job for that person. I mean, like, so I just come in nervous. It's kind of like, when you're playing football, or even a wrestler, that first time you get hit, that's when all
they say that a lot. Yes, the first time they get hit, it's like you have to get used to the pain. You never really get used to, but there's a point where it's almost like your body has to accept it. I think that's a great analogy there. I have to ask you about Black Label Society before I let you go, because obviously with Ozzy's passing, and I could see what he had meant to you. And obviously, I mean, I did a tribute show months ago about Ozzy, and I just had to ask you about what was it like working with Black Label Society.
Oh, wow. Black Label Society. Zakk Wylde. That was an interesting night.
I'm sure of that.
Again, another dream come true. Like I'm a big fanboy when it comes to rock stars and musicians and stuff. I mean, I don't show it up front, but deep down inside, I'm freaking out when I'm meeting these guys. And Zakk Wylde was another one. Was working at Paramount Recording in Hollywood and came in. And it was funny. I started out that night as the assistant engineer on that project.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I come in. Zakk comes in. I'm freaking out. His engineer comes in, who actually was another engineer at Conway Studios, which was another studio I worked at the time. So long story short, that guy had to leave in the middle of the night because he had a session the next morning. So they both look at me. He's like, you up for it? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm up for it. I'm ready for this. So Zack's like, all right, cool. We got to record a couple of guitar solos, and then you're going to mix the last song. I'm like, perfect. So we get in there. He brings in his Marshall stack. He's a few pedal boards, sets it down, and then he starts just warming up. And I'm setting up, putting the mics on and everything, and I'm just in the back of my head, this is Zakk fucking Wylde. Holy shit, this is crazy. So, set it up, and it happened to be the song Bridges to Cross, which I think is the name of the album. But the version that's on the album is not the version I recorded. It's an acoustic version that he put on the album. The version that we did was an electric version of it. So he's like, all right, first of all, I got to put a solo on this, and then you're going to mix it. I'm like, all right, cool. So he gets on there, and we had been working probably a good 4 to 6 hours roughly prior to this, before the dude left. So as soon as dude left, now it's just me and Zakk, and we've already sat here for a few hours talking and chatting it up. So we already had a cool little vibe going. So we set up, and he's sitting there warming up, and he's like, all right, let's play the solo. So I get into the section, hit record, and he just starts ripping away, being Zakk. And then he just kind of looks over at me. What do you think? And I'm like, in my head, did he really just fucking ask me that? Did he really just ask? I was like, well, let's try it again. Let's do another one. Okay, cool. Bang, start ripping through another solo. What'd you think? I'm like, yeah, man, sounds great. Let's do another one. All right, cool. And in the meantime, I'm just re-recording over the same track he just recorded. Knowing most people be like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Keep it. It was amazing. But no, I'm like, no, I know what I'm doing. So at third take, what do you think? And I just sit there for a second. He's kind of looking at me like, I said, and I look over at him, and he's standing right here, and he's a big guy.
I know. I've seen him. I've seen him.
Beard, just muscular, big old.
Yes.
Wearing his Black Label.
Yes.
the biker vest and everything, and he's looking like, what do you think? And I'm thinking, dare I say it? You know, that's not the Zakk Wylde I know. He's like, oh, okay. Plop, plop. Starts hitting the pedal boards. Hit it. And just starts fucking just ripping it. Smoke is coming off his fingers. He's just fucking, and you can just see in his face, like, I'm going to show this motherfucker how I play. And he's just killing it. And I'm just sitting, again, in the back of my head, holy shit, this is Zakk Wylde. And then he plays his stop, and I look at him and like, that's the Zakk I know. Let's do another one. Yeah, dude, let's do it. Let's go. And at that point, it was like, we connected.
Yeah, I think that was in 2001 or 2, if I recall correctly, around that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember it very well.
Crazy, like I said, blew me away. He just rips through the solo. Man, I'm glad you said that, man. That was awesome. You know how to pull it out, man. That's fucking great. I love that. Let's do another one. And then pull up another song, rips through another solo. It's like, all right, cool, man. Go ahead and mix that song. I'm going to take a nap. Okay. So takes a nap. I'm over there just going to town on it. It's about 10 o'clock the next morning. And I wake him up. Hey, Zakk, let's, I want you to listen to the song now. I'm done mixing. All right, cool. He listens to it. Fuck, dude, that sounds great, man. That's awesome, man. Great job, dude. Great job. Yeah, all right. Well, we're done, man. Print it. We're done. You want to go for a beer? And I'm like, dude, it's 26 hours I've been up. No, I don't want to go for no beer. I want to go to bed, man. But Zakk, if you're watching, if you see this, I apologize. I'll be happy to go for a beer. I'll buy, my man.
I'll make sure he hears this. Don't you worry about that. I'll make sure it'll be TikTok, Instagram. I'm on all of those. I'll make sure of it.
I regret to this day saying no to Zakk Wylde. I regret.
Well, you were 26 hours in the studio. To be fair, you were in the studio for 26 hours. I mean, listen,
nap, I didn't. So, again, I just regret it. But what the cool part about it is that I only got to work with him that one night. But I ran into him 3 or 4 other times at other studios. And he would like, yo, what's up, dude? He would give me a big hug. Come here, let me play what I'm doing. He would take me in the studio, stop the session, play shit for me. And I'm like, dude, this is amazing. Another bizarre, and this was like 3 or 4 times when he did his whole another record, went in and sat in, listened to stuff with him. And it was just like, and the stories that he would tell about Ozzy and on tour and everything, it just blew me away. Like, this guy is Zakk Wylde, a massive rock star, takes time out for me.
I used to listen to him. He used to call into Eddie Trunk here before he became national. And here in New York, I used to stay up as a kid listening to it, which was, at the time, it was on WNEW, and then it went to 104.3 FM here, Q 104.3. And he would call in. And you think, all right, Zakk Wylde, Ozzy, and at the time, this was during the Osbournes and all that stuff. Yeah. This is a massive, mega star. He would just call in and talk to Eddie for like an hour and a half, and that's just the kind of guy he was. He just it didn't matter that he had done all these things. He just wanted to talk about whatever was on his mind. I remember he would do that with even Mike Piazza, who was with the Mets at the time, was a drummer, big heavy metal guy, and he would sometimes come into the studio with actually Zakk Wylde, and I was always fascinated by that. So I could kind of even though I don't know Mr. Wylde, although I'll know him now after this clip he hears, but I could see what you're saying from that,
And he was the coolest dude, man. I mean, he would involve you in his stories, and like when he would tell you a story, it felt like you were there. You know what I mean? Like, and it was the greatest. And like I said, for him to like, hey, come here, let me play what I'm doing. Like, hell yeah, dude, let's go listen. And we would listen, like, man, I want to work with you again. All right, cool. Here's my number. We exchanged numbers and stuff. The funny part was that when my daughter was born this would have been 2003. His daughter was born in the same hospital. We both ran into each other.
Oh, wow.
Little small world. Sinai Hospital in Beverly Hills.
Wow.
Both of our daughters, like, I'm coming out. He's coming in. I'm like, Zakk. And he was like, hey, dude, what's up? They just called me off tour. My wife's having a baby. Maybe we'll run into each other again. I'm like, yeah, all right, good luck. Have fun. I was like, oh, shit, Zakk again, Like, I kept running into him, man. It was like, dude, it was just amazing. And that's the wonderful thing about the industry. A lot of people think the music industry, oh my God, but it's a small world, when you're in it and you're working and you run.
That's like that in wrestling, because I'll have a lot of wrestlers come on my platform and then I'll talk with them and they'll message me on social media and they'll go, oh, I see you know so and so. So yeah, it's kind of like that in wrestling in a
Yeah.
way. Obviously, you guys are way more famous, but it's the same thing because it's almost like you're in a niche. You're in a niche in that there's only so many people that are. And I wanted to ask you this question before we sign off here. Is there any artist? Doesn't matter what the genre you would like to work with that maybe you
Oh,
would have an opportunity with potential. I have to ask you that question.
yeah. I mean, unfortunately, yes, but unfortunately, we'll never have Ozzy.
Yeah,
Ozzy Osbourne.
yeah,
Ozzy. Okay, so again, my youngest of 8 kids, I listen to all my brothers' music. My sister turned me on to Ozzy and Black Sabbath. And
yeah.
so and that was my very first concert was seeing Ozzy, The Ultimate Sin with Metallica.
Oh wow, okay,
So that was the
yeah,
first concert I ever seen back in
wow,
86.
yeah.
So I naturally loved Ozzy for the fact of how much of a crazy guy he was. He was one of those guys like, I don't care what I do, I'm just doing it. That's just me. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how I am in a sense. So I related to that. And I used to tell people all the time, man, I would drop everything in a heartbeat to work with Ozzy. That's the one guy I
And I
would
read Zach Wild had said that recently in the last week that Ozzy wanted to do one more album. He wanted to
oh
do
man,
more.
that would have been amazing. That would have been great.
It could have been you. You got the call, maybe, to do some engineer work. I mean,
That would have been great. And again, and like I would have done it for free. Just the fact to say I got to work with Ozzy. I wouldn't charge the guy. I would, of course, make him buy me some lunch or something. But I'm not going to charge the guy. You know what I mean? Like there's artists like that he was the one that I would like drop.
You mentioned Steve Brown, and Steve Brown obviously worked on Ace Frehley's last record, and Steve Brown is, was very good friends with, some guy named Eddie Van Halen. Those are, names
Yeah,
I'm sure, would have been
absolutely.
great to work with. And yeah, I mean, that's
I've had the blessing of my career to work with so many amazing producers, engineers, and musicians to that. Yeah, I've been so close to some of those artists and stuff, but never had gotten into that room. But yeah, Ozzy would have been the one. I don't know. That's a hard one. That is a real hard one.
I think Ozzy's a great answer because just, what he meant just to so many people. As we're here for a few more minutes with the legendary Scott Gutierrez. And of course, Scott is the man behind the brand new songs that you've been hearing from Lorraine Lewis, which is out on Cleopatra Records. And she has another single coming out here right before Christmas, and time flies, certainly. And that's a remade version of Femme Fatale's Falling in Out of Love. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice figuratively and literally with all music and wrestling around it. If you hear, hit the sub button for us. And tomorrow we'll be back here with the Controversy King, Wyatt Black, who will have to follow this one up, and I have a feeling he won't. But obviously we're here for a few more minutes. But I think, listen, Ozzy, what he meant. I did a tribute show here about 4 months ago, and we had actually a lot of wrestlers come on and talk about just what he meant. So I think Ozzy's a good enough answer. And and I have to ask you before I let you go. Dr. Dre, what was Dr. Dre and 50 Cent like?
Oh man, Dr. Dre was like going to graduate school. I mean, that man. Again, I mean, I followed his career.
Yeah.
I grew up listening a little bit of NWA and stuff.
Sure.
And just to, when you get to that level and to work with people like him, that's a certain caliber that you just, that you achieve. This is like, okay, I'm here. How do I stay here? You just got to be on point all the time. Dr. Dre was a true, I don't know, a gentleman. The best way I could say it.
Oh, I think he was. He was a good businessman. Also, he was a very good businessman. He knew how to work with people. I think that was his biggest skill.
That was the thing and that was one thing that I really learned was that he never raised his voice to anyone. He treated everyone with respect, no matter who you were. He would walk up and give you love. I worked in his personal studio for on and off for 3 years, and to work side by side that guy. And to see how he works and to kind of how he handles everyone and his workflow and his ethic is absolutely amazing. And I now understand how he got to where he's at, and how he's able to achieve all that. I had the working with 50 Cent. Let me tell you a fun story how I got into that position. So again, as an engineer, I'm just running around the studios. I had a family, a wife and 2 kids.
Sure.
single income of family of 4 in Los Angeles with a mortgage. Needless to say,
Yeah, that's hard. Yeah, I mean, I'm from
a
New
little
York
hard.
City in Brooklyn, but my parents both worked most of my life, so I can't complain.
So you know how it is. You know how rough.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
You know, I'm just hustling, trying to find work and stay busy all the time. I was mostly a freelance all this time, but a lot of times I would just be able to work and for a studio and just get some really good opportunities. And the one studio I always avoided dropping my resume off was a studio in Hollywood called Ocean Way Recording.
Yep, you mentioned them earlier. Yep.
Yeah, Ocean Way is like the cream of the crop. You know what I mean? It is one of them studios, excuse me, that everyone goes to. Every big name artist, every big musician, every big producer goes to. It's one of them studios where every piece of gear that you can dream up is there. Every vintage microphone is there. It is just amazing place to work at. But again, you have to be at a certain caliber to be able to work there and to be able to hold a job there. Well, personally, as a lot of people, suffer from this, I was very self-conscious of, am I good enough to work at Ocean Way? Am I good enough? I don't want to work there because I don't want that stress and pressure, is what I always thought these years. So I would literally bounce around and take my resume in person to studios, walk in the door, drop it on the receptionist desk, say, can I speak to your studio manager? I'm looking for a job as an assistant or whatever you got.
Wow.
A lot of people like, no, we're not looking for no one, but we'll take and put on file. So I found out where Dr. Dre was working at, what studio he was at. So I said, I want to work for Dre. So I got my resume, set it all up, made it look nice and pretty, put it on this beautiful paper that looked like marble. So when you it was badass, it looked great. So that way they could always see. I said, oh, it's on the marble paper, because they got a stack of resumes. Mine's with the marble paper. And they're like, oh, there it is. They pull it right out. So a little trick of the trade there. So that's what I did. I took my resume to the studio that he was working at, rang the doorbell, studio manager, like, can I help you? I was like, yeah, I just want to drop my resume off. We're not hiring. I understand, but I still want to just leave my resume with you for on file. Okay. He takes it through the door, didn't even open the door, just slides it through the door. I'm like, all right, thanks, bye. 2 days later, I get a phone call from Ocean Way Recording. And I'm like, I'm looking at the caller ID like, Ocean Way? Why are they calling me? So I pick up the phone. Hi, can I speak with Scott? And this is Kelly Irwin from Ocean Way. I'm like, yeah, Scott. She's like, hi, we just got your resume. We wanted to talk to you about, a possible position. And I'm like, no, I didn't take my resume to Ocean Way. She's like, you took it to Record One, right? I'm like, yeah. She's like, well, we own Record One. So if you want to work at Record One, you got to work at Ocean Way. I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, cool. I'll come in. So I go into the studio. I go to the studio. I meet her. And she says, we want you to meet our head tech. All right. So I go and meet the tech. And again, I'm sitting there thinking, I know I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I like to myself quite a bit. So I'm sitting there thinking like, all right, well, I've got all these years of experience. I've worked in all these different genres. I've worked in all this different equipment, blah, 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 blah. Hit me. So they start asking you technical questions when they interview you. What's the bias when you align a tape machine? What's the bias that you set for this tape? What's the bias for this tape? How do you do the azimuth? Blah, 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 blah. And they start asking all these little technical questions. And I'm just rattling off the answers because, again, I've been doing this all this time. I know this stuff. And the guy looks like, wow, you really are. No. Do you know this console? Yep. Do you know how to work? Yep. Do you know this one? Yep. Wow. I'm looking at your resume. It's very impressive. You worked at a lot of places, a lot of gear. All right, cool. We'll tell Kelly to hire you. What? He was like, yeah, I mean, I don't see why you can't work with us. We'll train you. We'll pay you for training, blah, 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 blah. All right, cool. So that's what happens. They hire me. I'm at Ocean Way training in all their rooms. And then they tell me, well, we're going to send you to Dre's studio because the assistant over there is leaving. He's going back to home and he's going to be gone for a month. So your first gig is going to be with Dr. Dre for a month. I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, cool. So I get over there and I hit it off with everyone, obviously, right away. I meet Dre, talk to him a little bit, ask me a few questions. I tell him I work with Death Row and Tupac and blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, okay, cool. Then I meet his engineer and everyone. We start hitting it off. And then after the time comes over, they're like, you know what? Why don't you stay over here? We like you, man. Why don't you hang out with us? I'm like, all right, cool. So then, long story short, he ends up firing one of his other engineers in the B room. He had two studios, Studio A where he was. Studio B was for all the vocals and everything where they would record at and the overflow. So he fires the head engineer on that studio. And they look at me like, you're next in line. Congratulations. You're now his engineer. Like,
Wow.
okay. First session,
Wow.
RZA with Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wu-Tang Clan Staten Island. Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Got to work with RZA for a few days, and then Busta Rhymes comes in, and then
Little Buster.
people, man, it just snowballed after that. And I'm just sitting there on and off for 3 years working with this guy. And again, all this time, not once I've ever heard him yell, not once I ever hear him curse at anyone out, none of that stuff. And just sitting back watching him and really seeing that man put his hands on the console and just listening to the balance and stuff that he comes up with is just, like I said, it was like,
I mean, I think that's why he was this, obviously he's the one that molded the careers of Eminem and, 50 Cent was obviously a part of that. I mean, and it's just amazing that, I think the moral of the story is, before we get to closing thoughts, is just, you never know what doors can open. And I think that that's what you've told us tonight. And I think that that's really what I'm going to remember most. And I obviously hope you'll come back again here and tell us more things that you're going to work on. But I think that's just really, really something that I'm going to remember. And, before we get to closing thoughts, is there anything else that maybe you want to share, or anything else that you're working on for the audience and such?
So again, being an engineer, I also taught for a lot of years at several schools.
You were telling me about that off the air.
Yeah, I used to teach at American Film Institute. So LA Film School, LA Recording School. So basically, I've expanded my career, not only just in music, but also film and television. So I do sound design, I do dialogue editing, I do everything and anything audio related in film. So I do re-record mixing, surround sound mixing, things like that. So a lot of stuff that I've been working on lately has been film stuff. So got to work on, what was it? Grace with Alexandra Gray. Got to work on.
I know Alexandra Gray.
Yeah. And then what was another one I worked
Baywatch, obviously. Baywatch is certainly where she's most known.
Right. Another one's called A Family Guide to Hunting with Mark.
Yes, I see that right here. Yep. Return to Hardwick, Mad Dreams. You've worked on Nice Quiet Life.
Yeah. If you go to IMDb, you can see all those fun credits and stuff, and sound designing, music.
You're my second guest in 4 days that has an IMDb resume. One of my guests on Friday, another person in the wrestling world, AJ Harrison, I have to shout him out, actually has an IMDb page. He was like, "You want to show it?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so there you go.
Nice. Yeah. So like I said, I do a lot of film and television stuff. I've got a couple of projects in the works right now that I'm going to be doing some sound design and mixing for. A couple of music projects that are coming along. I don't want to shout out any names yet until we.
Don't do that. Yeah, please don't on my platform, because I'll hear from it. Trust me, I will hear from it. But that's great. Now, I really like that you give back, and you've been so generous with your time, and that's why we're very honored to put you in the Hall of Fame. And I believe one day there should be a Hall of Fame for you in the Music Hall of Fame. I don't know what they'll do for producers and engineers, but I think you should be in a Hall of Fame. But at least you're in mine for now. And I want everybody to check you out at Goot Productions. Also check you out on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm going to give you the floor. I'm going to give you some closing thoughts. I hope that you'll come back on again one of these days. And I just want to thank you so much for giving me as much time as you did. It's an absolute honor to have gotten a chance to know you here. And I look forward to seeing your projects and anything else you'll do. And I just want to now pass the baton to you for any closing thoughts.
I appreciate it, Tom. Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you to you and your platform for having me. Honestly, I don't do very many interviews at all because I just kind of shy away from that. But anyways, thank you again for, bringing this out. I want to shout out to Lorraine Lewis, for, hooking me up with this as well.
Yeah, Lorraine was really she really spoke really highly of me, which I appreciate very much, because I know she does a lot of interviews, and she was telling me off the air that they usually ask her the same 2 or 3 questions, which is about things you kind of hinted about people. And I was like, no, we're not going to do that. I have a reputation, and she was very happy about that. So I really want to thank Lorraine for this, really.
Right. I want to do a quick shout out.
Sure.
One of my students, actually,
Absolutely.
One of my old students years ago, his name's Forson. The number 4, CEN. Look him up. Grammy nominated. One of my students who actually got nominated for a Grammy this year.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. So he's actually nominated for Best Contemporary Christian Album. So shout out to him.
Yes. In fact, I actually have it. Funny you said that, because I have it right here. Here we go. There he is. Yes.
There we will give him. There it is.
We'll make sure he gets this one, or we'll make sure of that.
There it is. Check him out. Yeah, he's actually one of my old students. It's funny because he worked at the Grammy Museum, is where I ran into him years after I had him in class, and we just stayed in contact all these years. So yeah, there's another one, David. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm forgetting David's last name. David, I'm so sorry. Verlarda, David Verlarda, I believe it is. Anyway, shout out to him. Another one of my old students that does a lot of work as well still. I want to shout out, I already said Lorraine, and then also a personal friend of mine, Bashir Gravel, who is a writer and producer for the Murdoch murders, or the Murdoch.
Wow.
Yeah, he's actually one of my neighbors. So, and the reason why I'm shouting him out is because since I've been in this building, you know, since he's been in my neighborhood, we've been friends. He's always been encouraging me, just giving me all kinds of words of encouragement and stuff. And I just want to say shout out to him for that, for just kind of keeping my head above water, keeping me grounded a little bit, you know, especially when I'm feeling down and things like that. He's always just reassuring me of who I am, what I've done, and this and that and the other. But a big shout out to him and his career right now in the film world and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, and another shout out to a friend, Jayla Rocks. Loving you, girl. So shout out to you, and your podcast and everything is working all well for you. And yeah, it's all the things that I can think of right now.
That's a lot of shout outs, and I'll remember that. She does a podcast.
Of course, and all my family and friends and my fans and those who had to climb over to get to where I'm at now.
Hey, listen, you got quite a resume, quite a story, and I want to thank you, obviously, again for the opportunity. I want to thank, obviously, all the supporters of my platform for connecting people like yourself and Lorraine, because without, I'm going to say it again, I say it over and over time I do one of these, without the wrestlers on my platform, I wouldn't be connected to big names like yourself. So they gave me the following, they got me the followers and the subscribers, so otherwise I have, like everyone else, like a unique story, and that's what I do want to thank. And I want to thank you most importantly. And before we sign off one more time, you are in the Sportzwire Radio Hall of Fame as our newest member. We'll give you the physical copy when we're off there. That is Scott Gutierrez. He is the owner of Gut Productions. You can also find his work in so many different places, but also right now at the moment, he is the engineer behind the brand new music released by Lorraine Lewis, who was our guest a few weeks ago on Sportzwire Radio, and also is a part of the group Femme Fatale, which has another single coming out here right before the year is out. So please check that out. Also follow Scott on Instagram, Facebook, imdb.com, and check us out here for more details. My friend, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. I look forward to speaking with you again down the road, and hope you have a happy holiday, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and the best is yet to come. And I can't wait to hear some of the music you produce. And the next time I look at a game CD that I have somewhere, or a 50 Cent CD, or Dr. Dre, or a Kiss somewhere CD, or Avril Lavigne, or Jessica Simpson's, I'll go, oh, I definitely know him, and I'm going to now feel a little closer to that music. So thank you so much for the opportunity, my friend.
Appreciate you, Tom. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you.
All right, that is Scott Gutierrez. Of course, he is the man behind Gut Productions, and we stated he is also the man behind Lorraine Lewis's brand new music as an engineer and mixer. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. You have voice figuratively and literally with all music and wrestling match. Hit the sub button for us, and until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the number one global radio, the Sportzwire Radio, with all music and wrestling match. Thank you, everybody.